Hello, Aldwyn Altuney here, and welcome to Truth Xpose TV. I have a very special guest with us today who is a sought-after speaker right across Australia and internationally, and a very unique person indeed. He's actually a qualified lawyer, accountant, and he's a crypto tax specialist who is actually going to be teaching us today about how to clear your money and tax imprints and manifest what you really want. He's actually someone who has also turned into a spiritual teacher. His name is Warren Black, and he's coming to us live from Perth today. Hello, Warren.
Hi, Aldwyn. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you. So great to have you join us on the show. And I've seen you several times over the years. You used to speak with Andrew and Daryl Grant many years ago, and you've done a lot in the area of helping people minimise their tax. And now you've really ventured into some other fields. And I'm fascinated to hear more about your journey of how you started and how you've actually come to develop into where you are now.
Sure. Well, where you want to start, Aldwyn? Just back from young, or?
Yeah, well, how did you, I mean, obviously quite ambitious. I mean, if you've been a lawyer and an accountant for starters, I mean, that's a really unique pair of qualifications to have with one person. You know, you hear of people being either lawyers or accountants. So to start with, I would imagine you've been very ambitious. So where did that ambition come from, and how did you decide to do both of those things initially?
Well, I've grown up really always being very spiritual and very ambitious. I think it's probably a good summary of me, Aldwyn. Like, very competitive in school. I really was keen to do well. I always had a fascination with finance and business, but also spiritual. So from when I was 10 years of age, I was involved in sport. I was involved in a church. I would see people get touched by spiritual experiences. Got me really fascinated. Stayed involved in churches right throughout my teenage years. Well, at the same time, I was doing my study, going to youth groups, and really living a pretty normal life where I was just very passionate about my spirituality. And how I ended up doing both was more like a bit of an accident. I actually wanted to be a lawyer originally, but back then you couldn't be a lawyer without doing first 1 year of something else. I did 1 year of accounting and thought, well, I may as well finish it now. And I did that. Then I did law. So I ended up doing both accountant, both being a lawyer. Became a lawyer for many years, and then now I became an accountant, and then now, like as you mentioned, I've really more these days turned more into a spiritual teacher who also runs a very out of the box accounting practice that kind of ties in with my spiritual work. In other words, helping more conscious investors, business owners who are in cryptos want to go offshore to minimize their taxes, but generally who are more conscious.
It's a really interesting transition. And, being in the personal development field and, hanging out with a lot of business coaches, they often say you should just niche and focus on one thing, right? Yeah. So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, look, I do agree, really. And in saying that, you can do one thing but have many aspects of it. So many, like Richard Branson, he's got like that many Virgin like companies. It's not funny, but really he's got one main vision. Then you've got like Bill Gates, who's got Microsoft, but obviously there can be parts to it. So really, my one thing is about awakening the planet and bringing people to sovereignty and freedom. That is my one thing. And I've really, from when I was young, I grew up in a family which is reasonably good, but I didn't feel free. I had a very rather controlling environment. I hated rules and systems and structures of any kind that were controlling. I grew up in a school system that was really very stifling at that time. I was horrified at the fact that Australians are paying 50% taxes at the time, and thought, no, I can't let that be the case. So really, I expressed my desire to free people and become sovereign and awaken through looking to find creative ways to minimize taxes. So originally I was more a conscious accountant who was about helping people free themselves. So my spiritual work is really just taking that to the next level. I'm helping people do it, and I believe it's more important at the esoteric manifestation level. So, because to give you an example, I was noticing as an accountant that the kind of clients who attracted tax problems and audits had very similar things going on in their life. And frequently there was there was what I call subconscious ways of thinking, upbringing, conditioning to the Australian system. And I started just for a bit of fun or a hobby more than anything else, doing some of my spiritual training, which I'd done through various masters who I traveled across the world to see and work with. I decided for a bit of fun doing it with clients. So I would do some clearings on them. I would I would basically use meditation and spiritual practices, and I'd combine it with finances to see, does this actually make a difference? So more like a bit of an experiment. And I was amazed at how people were starting to get some real results. And then I started working with a master called Toby Alexander and Ed Stratcher. And I found again with these guys here, I remember my business was going through some challenges. I did some clearings of some negative imprints and curses with Ed Stratcher, being a little bit like, how will this go? Saw a massive change in my business. Same with Toby Alexander. And I started to realize, you know what? Our mind and our thinking and our spirit do affect our reality. And there's so much I could say on this issue, but you get the drift. I realized how much of it was. And bit by bit, I started to realize that my passion is in the spirit, is spiritually. And what really accelerated that was what happened to me in May when I had an encounter with the One, which I told you about before, where I actually had a divine encounter, which completely was a huge shock, to put it mildly. I didn't expect it, where I actually had a visitation from Source, and who told me his concerns with the planet, what was going on, corporate greed, business stuff, and the need to start awakening, because we had such a massive financial crash coming, massive change on the planet. And really, I see a real, I don't know it to be duality and being light and darkness, but I almost see this as a war of light and darkness right now. You've got like this movement of sovereignty and people, claiming freedom from taxes, freedom from vaccinations, and, the medical system, which of course saved my own life by getting free from that. Getting free in terms of hating high taxes, but at the same time, governments are clamping down more than ever before. The debts are at record levels across the Western world. Taxes are getting higher and higher, and you've got this kind of war where cryptos are fighting back against the banks. You've got Ubers fighting against taxis, and what I'm seeing is that this is we are going to see a sovereign world, but we're going to see some problems getting there, if that makes sense. And that's how I become more spiritual teacher, because I can see that awakening on our inside is critical to get through what's coming, if that makes sense.
Sounds fascinating. I'm really interested in this encounter with the One that you've had. What did that look like? Was it during a meditation, or what actually happened?
Well, I encountered a client who someone told me about this guy. Like, he came to me for tax purposes originally, and to help him set up a foundation or a church. So I was helping him set up a church. And one of my clients said to me, "Oh, this guy you're dealing with is an absolute master. You need to go and do some work with him." And I was like, okay. And my mind said, I don't know about that, but my inner being told me he was right. So I talked to this guy and heard that he ran a kind of private mystery school. And I'd always been fascinated with ancient mystery schools of deeper esoteric teaching that was hidden from the masses. So I went and did a session with him, and I did some study with him. And when I was with him and did some work with him, I was just at his house and I was doing a meditation, and it just happened. And literally out of the blue, I had this, and the only way I can describe it was all my beliefs about God, about life, about spirituality kind of blew out the water. So many have asked me to say, "Did you see the One?" I said, "Yes." And they said, what did he look like? I said, "I don't even know if you call him a he or she." I said, "It's like there's a person behind it, but it was just colors. It was just omnipresent. It was magnificent. Everything was one." I said, I was one with everything, and everything was one with me. I was like, and yet I was still separate, but yet I was one. And I was seeing everything clearly. I was seeing the planet. I was seeing what was going on. I was having visions of parts of the planet, like open visions, like a movie. Like I'm seeing now. I was seeing, I saw like the Holy of Holies is what they talk about in the Bible, an ancient temple where I had this profound healing, but I've never been the same since. So I was always a very anxious, highly strung person, carrying a lot of anxieties, a lot from my childhood and upbringing, and being a very intense person. And although I'm still intense, everyone who knows me said there's been a calmness and a joy, more compassion. I've become patient with my family and have a much better relationship with them now. I've become patient with people around me who before annoyed me, and actually seeing it from different perspectives. So probably the biggest change was how much I realized how much I'd been wrong before, a lot of my beliefs, how much I didn't actually know, how bad the system really had got, how much we kind of numbed ourselves to the horrors of what's really going on this planet in terms of the rainforest destruction, ridiculous levels of governments that are just like milking the people, misusing the money, blatant stealing. The fact that you've got a whole medical system, it's not about healing, but about enriching pharmaceutical companies by and large. You kind of numb yourself to it, but the horrors of the truth of it really hit me. And ever since, and it took me probably, without exaggerating, almost 3 months to process that experience. I was in shock. Now I've processed it, and I've realized that I'm just going to get out there and start teaching people. And how I see it is, being a doom and gloom speaker doesn't achieve anything, because what the one told me was that, no, that's not going to actually solve anything. You've got to actually awaken people to their higher heart and higher purpose, because when people do that and start to really live their deepest and highest truth, and start to learn how to take charge of their energetic hologram, because really what you see around you is just, and what scientists have now proven, like Einstein was talking about it, but guys like Paul Peach, Niels Bohr, David Bohm, a guy called Amit Goswami, a physicist at Oxford University, have all been showing pretty much now confirmed that we're living, but it's a quantum realm, not just a realm of matter or material stuff, but it's like this energetic spirit realm that governs all things, to the point where really think of ourselves as like we're a movie projector and the world is our movie. So if your movie sucks, it's because your movie projector is playing a film that you don't like. And I started to realize that the best way I can serve the planet is teach people how to change their film projector, change what's actually the video that's being played. And I've been doing that, as well as still on helping people minimize taxes, because I've realized that every client I help minimize taxes and free them who's conscious, I'm putting more money back into the planet. So now my tax work is not just a job anymore or business, it's a mission. I'm helping people to actually be free. So, because let's just say I've got a client who's making $5 million a year and paying lots of taxes, but he's got a conscious dream to help the planet. Like one of my cryptos client recently, I freed him from taxes legally moving forward. So this guy's now putting heaps of money into starting his own work. He's starting a free work to help teach people financially, to help more people get abundant. So really now I can see the best way to get the planet is awaken more people, and like get this tipping point happening that Stephen Hawking talks about, where you get 10% of people awakened in a certain area, and it goes across the globe. So yeah, that's how it's really happened. So I haven't thrown away my tax business, because I see that I'm still doing it, but it's becoming a more conscious business. Like the kind of clients I'm taking on are different. Like people coming to us who are like normal day job workers who aren't conscious, and I'm like, we can't help you, and we send them to another accountant. So nearly all my clients now are what I call spiritually aware. They're conscious. Either that, or they're into cryptos, they're into offshore, where they want to go internationally, all that kind of stuff. And at the same time, I'm running training programs, teaching people from a scientific as well as spiritual point of view how to actually transform, using psychotherapy and energy, your blocks. And I've been having amazing stuff. Like even I'm kind of humbled to say all this, but this week I'm talking to a client who had a lower back pain that's been there since a car accident, instantly healed in my last webinar. Like I saw the damage, and I went in there in the quantum realm and did a quantum healing and healed her. And she had a debt as well, which was ruining her from that whole thing. The debt got wiped out by a bank. Never happens. Bank wiped out the debt. I've had other clients who've been sick, who've been getting healed. I had another client. I had 2 clients in 2 days email me who were very reluctant to join my course because they had no money. They joined it by faith, and within a day or two, they had been offered jobs with twice as much pay for one person. Another person got literally offered a job out of nowhere because he hadn't been able to find work. But they're just examples, and I'm seeing this everywhere right now. I've had clients who like one of my clients, we couldn't find a way to solve his tax problem, so we did a quantum healing on his business. I thought, what the heck, let's try it. We did a quantum healing on his finance and business and cleared the energy. And the result of it was within a couple of days, this guy, he just said, we just got this idea, and suddenly we saw there was a way that neither of us had thought about that could literally free him from tax moving forward. It was all 100% legal. And this same client said to me, I'll go to jail if I have to minimize taxes, but I'd rather not. And I said, no, let's not create that manifestation. So when you change your belief system and you really do it, you can create miracles. We've cleared traffics. We were in Las Vegas a little while ago at the Wynn Hotel. which anyone who goes in knows that the breakfast queue is absolutely insane every morning, 45-minute wait. So we did after 2 days of going through this, we thought, nah, forget this. We did a conscious clearing, but we saw the whole Wynn Hotel clear and we could walk in. We walked in and walked straight in. And the next 2 days, we walked straight in, walked straight to breakfast. You know, they're just examples. I met a guy, I remember at a Raymond Grace workshop, and this isn't like anything to do with me, but he was broke and he did the same kind of clearing. And within a matter of days, he made the biggest sale in the history of America for mining equipment, wiped out all of his debt. He was financially free. He went from broke to financially free in a few days. So this is what this can do.
That's phenomenal. It's amazing how powerful we are, and we often don't get how powerful we are. And you know, the whole quantum healing idea just sounds unbelievable. And you know, I'm curious as to how you manifest things that quickly. How do you use this quantum healing to heal people, to get such miraculous results?
Well, firstly, what you've got to realize is that there's this in the Bible, Jesus said that basically if you believe something in your heart and you do not doubt it in your heart and you command it, it shall be done for you. And in fact, he even said, if you say to a mountain, be moved and go into the sea, and you absolutely believe it, it will do it. Wow. He said, in other words, it's a certainty and the faith that you have that creates your reality. Now, most people are doing manifestation and faith in reverse. So you may have absolute certainty that, you know, every time I go out in the morning, the traffic's terrible. And you create that manifestation. That's one example. Or you may have absolute certainty, like I know people who walk around saying, yeah, my father died young. I know I'm going to die young. And that's a manifestation. Or you're walking around anxious about your money and you like, things never work out for me. Have you ever said that? Like, why is it that whenever I go into investments, they fail, but everyone else, when they do it, it seems to work? That's a manifestation. It's certainty. You believed it in your heart and you haven't doubted it, and it's come to pass. And so what you got to do is reverse and switch that process around. So what if instead, like I can remember with this client who I did the tax thing, well, I just said to him, look, you just got to know that there's always a way. And if you believe with absolute 100% certainty there's a way for you to be tax-free legally, it'll happen. And this guy had great faith. He said, no, yep, I know it. And we did that. And then we got that answer. I can remember I've cured myself from 3 incurable illnesses because I said that. I remember when I went to a doctor, I had chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, massive depression about 20 years ago, seriously so sick that I had doctors tell me, you're never going to get better. You just have to accept that. And I said to them, I will get better. You just don't know the answer. I said, I knew I just said, I know I'm healed. In fact, I even said, I know I'm already healed. It just hasn't happened in my body yet. So I was talking as if I was already healed, and I did find a solution and got healed. 2 years ago, I was getting chronic arthritis in my joints that was causing me a lot of pain. And I remember a doctor telling me, you know, it's kind of permanent. And I said, well, it's not permanent. In fact, I said, I refuse to label it arthritis, and I didn't do that because I said, the moment you label it as something, I've manifested it. And so I started walking around saying, yeah, I've got some symptoms in my joints, but they're already recovering. And I was doing clearings. And I've into practical action. I went on a fast. I did yoga. I did strength work. And every day I just kept telling people, yeah, it's really amazing how my body's getting better. And the first month I was doing that, I didn't feel a thing. But I knew, but I could see it. And that's actually faith. Faith is you can see it, even though you haven't seen it. If I could see it, it's not faith. So if I could see myself getting better, that's not faith. That's just me saying a fact, if you can see the difference. Whereas faith is you can't see it physically, but your intuitive third eye mind, your inner mind sees it. And, you know, miracles started happening. I remember even my mid-back, but for 25 years, I'd had a constant jamming in my spine and pain. As I kept saying, as well, that's getting better as well. I was just saying, yeah, my back's already recovering. It's amazing what's happening. I was doing clearings. So the key was my language lined up with it, and I was just practicing doing it. And, you know, I remember out of the blue then, someone told me about this soft tissue treater. I went and saw him, got some treatment, bang. He cured something that for 25 years had not been able to be fixed. I had a whiplash injury that was so severe I couldn't even put my neck back in a movie. I remember one day saying, I know that this neck is healed. And I said it with conviction. I said, this neck is healed. I said, it's healed right now. And that's my manifestation. I said it with calmness, and I said, and I'm picking up this newspaper, and I picked up this magazine, said, I'm going to look in here, and I'm going to find someone who's going to help me. And I literally had complete certainty. And as I turned it, the second page I saw, having back problems or neck, ring this number. I just rang them straight away. The guy said, I can't help you, but my old mentor, who's retired now, he may be able to help you. And I rang the guy. The guy wasn't even advertising, said, yeah, look, I'll help you. Went and saw him, 3 treatments, my neck was normal. So, you know, I at Raymond Grace's workshop, I had bad knee pain that had been getting worse and worse. Third day, I remember looking at my knee saying, you know what, knee, I know you're healed. Stop lying to me with this shit. You are healed. And I said, by the power of Christ, I know you're healed. And I started walking down the stairs, because faith has to be followed by action. No point saying you're healed and then you walk around as if you're not. And if you're saying I'm healed and then going to doctors and taking drugs, well, yeah, your actions are not going with it. And sometimes you do need to take drugs. I'll specify that. Like for example, when I was going through healing, sometimes I would be saying I'm taking this for a period to transition into it. But just to clarify that very clearly, so I don't want to be irresponsible or leave people to do that. But my actions had to line up. So I started walking down the stairs, and honestly, I almost was in tears with the pain, but I kept commanding my knee, and by the bottom of the stairs, my knee was almost healed. An hour later, my knee was right. So manifestation is you just have to believe it and train yourself out of what's called negative manifestation and start to believe in yourself and realize what's the worst that could happen? I could fail. And all the great miracle teachers and healers, that's how they do it. They just go, they have certainty. And like when people get healed and they thank me, I said, the truth is I didn't actually heal you. I say, I'm just like, my faith helped give you confidence to heal yourself. That's all that happened. Because and truly I believe now, I used to wonder what causes healings, what causes miracles. What causes these miracles, it's really mainly scientific. A lot of it, it's scientific, along with you being the one. So for example, if I connected with you right now and you truly believed your business was about to double in income, and my faith was certain that you were, you subconsciously would pick up my faith level. That would embolden you. And then you can lift your faith, and then bang, your business will double. See what I mean? It's kind of a dual partnership here.
It's like the ripple effect. Like you say, the 10% awakens and impacts those around, right?
Correct.
There's a great little video on YouTube called Tiny Dot, and it really shows, how the world works. It shows that there's a small minority of people that are controlling the masses. A lot of people are brainwashed, don't realize they're being brainwashed, and are programmed into very small thinking. Or as David Icke said in an interview I did with him on this show 2 years ago, he said a lot of people have a postage stamp view of normal. And interestingly, how you were impacted by the one, he also saw a psychic and started to see all these pieces of a puzzle, he said, come together, and he started to see all these lies and all these things going on in society that he just had to wake people up to. And I think it's just awesome you're on this path now, Warren, and it's so powerful, and the impact that you will have on people, and obviously you are having on people, is just phenomenal. So I really applaud you for that, and
thank you.
And I think that's really great news for those out there. And I just saw you on the weekend at the Block Conscious Summit by Paul Seals and crew, and that was phenomenal there in Brisbane, a 3-day event, over 200 speakers, brilliant event, and your talk went down really well there. So what is it that's got you interested in cryptocurrencies, coming from a background where you worked in the ATO? You actually you had background information of how the tax office works in Australia. And now you're really getting stuck into cryptocurrencies. So can you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, cryptocurrencies I see are like, in relation to normal money or fiat money, is the same as Ubers in relation to taxis. You have this situation going on where taxis were basically kind of this monopoly. They could, and all of us could tell our horror taxi stories. They'd never give you a time when they would be there for you. You couldn't get any certainty around them. Getting a taxi where I live was pretty much impossible because I'm out in the sticks a bit. It just gave crappy service and overpriced. Then along comes Uber. Uber ignores the government, ignores the regulations because they're not doing enough about it, and just start regardless. And they kind of expect to be persecuted, to be sued, and to be in trouble with governments. When you think about it, it's amazing that the whole Uber business model expected that what they were doing would be illegal, but they were willing to do what it took to bring change. And we now have this amazing life where, for me, the quality of my life's improved. Like, I've got this Uber app on my phone. We've now got another company called Ola Cabs that give even cheaper prices than Uber that we use. When I can't take my kids to gym, the Uber can do it for me now. I mean, life has become easier because basically Uber came on the scene and others. And I see cryptos is, for years, you hear all the whinging about banks. You know, they take your money, they print it out of nothing, they are diminishing your money all the time, they're charging hefty interest rates on loans, they're ruthless in their pursuit of them, they pay minimal returns, known for their going on to automated teller machines, away from customer service. You know, they're known for their treatment. I had a ridiculous situation the other day where we billed a client's credit card, and in the exact moment we were building it, our website went down, so the money got jammed, and when we rang the bank, they said, oh, yeah. I said, well, just put it back in the client's account. We'll bill it again. Oh, no, we can't do that. For 4 days, we were waiting the money in limbo before it went back. You know, just stupid stuff like that. And then along comes cryptos. And cryptocurrencies basically ignored government, are encrypted, are on their own network, and are a money where I could transfer you Bitcoin in like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I could transfer you most cryptos in 10, 15, 20-minute type of situations. So basically, cryptos have changed the world. They're bringing a simpler solution, a better solution, and we're still young. I mean, the day will be coming when it'll be normal to walk in with your phone, hold your phone up, and it'll just basically take your crypto. And whichever crypto is the one that does that, or the few 3 or 4 cryptos, they're going to be worth billions, no question. So cryptos, to me, it's kind of an anti-establishment thing. It's following along with the whole world movement, like Donald Trump getting in. I mean, come on. I mean, Donald Trump becoming president. If someone had said that 10 years ago, you would have. It would have been like a funny movie you would have put on. But it actually happened, and I knew it was going to happen 6 weeks before it did, because I remember reading the online media polls, and where all of the actual mainstream media was saying Hillary Clinton was winning the debates, all the online were giving Trump like 76 to 24, 83 to 17. So I knew that the people were kind of seeing it differently. And many people who voted Donald Trump, they actually admit it was basically a FU to society. There's people who voted Trump who openly said, we don't like the guy, but we just wanted to kind of give it up to the government and give it up to Hillary Clinton and all of their stupid political crony. And that's what happened. So cryptos are going to be, were always going to be successful and going to take over the world because they're anti-establishment. And even though some regulation will come in more now, you're still going to have cryptos, a bit like you've got this whole music industry and streaming. Yeah, you've got it more mainstream now, but you've still got a lot of people operating independently and doing their own thing. And I see that it's kind of like a decentralization of money. People will have their own coins that won't be controlled by governments. No matter what governments try and do, they won't be able to stop that. You know, they clamp down on one crypto, 10 more will spring up. So cryptos are definitely the way of the future. I think there's still a huge amount of money to be made in cryptos, but I think it's going to be different to last year. But because I think now it's going to become more mainstream, it's going to be more certain type of cryptos that will do very, very well. But yeah, look, I think that there's no question in my mind. It's another part of this whole sovereign awakening puzzle, where it's awakening people to the fact that we can, you know, we can create our own currencies, we can create our own tokens, we can move away from government established systems and get our own sovereignty back. So it's another way of being free.
Fantastic. And like Airbnb too, you know, the councils and the government's trying to crack down on Airbnb and Uber right across the world. You know, they still want their control in there, don't they? And so, you know, I've had council issues over Airbnb. I went to the media about it, and you know, they've got all sorts of, you know, they say you need to get short-term accommodation licenses now to do Airbnb, et cetera, et cetera. And really, who is the council to tell you how you operate your house? You know, who you have in your house? You know, who the hell are they to say how you live your life? And, you know, who are the doctors to say you are not going to survive whatever ailment you've got? I've heard of lots of people surviving things when doctors have said you'll never survive, or you never walk again, or, you know, this will never happen. And it's amazing how people can heal themselves. And, you know, coming back to, you know, the power within this talk, really, we're chatting today about how to clear your money and tax imprints and manifest what you really want. So let's go to that. And how can people clear their money and tax imprints, and how do they know actually that they have money and tax imprints?
Well, good question. Look, I think that the thing to remember is and I'm going to go back to what you just said and lead into that for a reason. But what you were just saying about Airbnb and all that, it's important leading into that, because generally what I see happening is we're going to move into what's called, Uber did civil disobedience. Crypto's been civil disobedience. I see that more and more they'll clamp down on Airbnb and something else will spring up. Eventually, and they'll keep building layers of government to cope with it, but the system will collapse because they run out of money. More and more of the wealthy are leaving the country, like I teach in my tax webinars, to go offshore and minimize their tax. They've got less money to try and cover more regulation and more government bureaucrats and more Barnaby Joyces to have their lovers all want their money. This is what you're dealing with. And so in terms of how you're aware you got imprints, well, I noticed that when I didn't have imprints, I'll tell you what changed in me first. I'd become more courageous to speak my truth, like I'm doing on this right now. Whereas before, I was always a bit reluctant to really share too much on my spiritual beliefs because how people would perceive me. Whereas I've got confidence. I'm more confident in terms of speaking against things I don't agree with now. I'm more compassionate in how I think, and I'm finding it easier to attract money, and I'm more aware of where I've gone wrong in the past, and I'm more forgiving. And where I was scammed on some investments some time ago, and rather than being mad about the whole thing, I'm actually seeing now how I had imprints back then that attracted that to me. And I'm seeing the imprints and seeing the lessons I had from it, which are already bringing me more finance and transforming my money situation and taking a deeper responsibility for it. Yeah, so how do you know you got imprints? Well, really, if the movie that's playing in your life you don't like, you've got imprints. And unfortunately, think of it this way, Aldwyn. If you basically are living in a dirty house, you're going to get dirty. Even if you walk in squeaky clean into my house, let's say my house was a dog's breakfast, it had like termites, it had like ants running around, it had food gone rotten, it had dust everywhere. Wherever at the end of the day, you'd be dirty, you'd feel dirty, and you'd be sneezing and having allergic reactions. And think of the planet right now is so dirty. The very fact you walk out and exist and you work and do stuff, you're going to get dirty. And I have to clear myself regularly because of that. So that's for starters. But then you've got your imprints from the mass mind. And just to give you a bit of a scientific basis of this, between the ages of, and most people, and you'll probably find this fascinating, but in all science of brain development, between the ages of 0 to 6, you're in what's called a delta or theta brain state, which means that you're in an almost unconscious state of being. So anything that's spoken over you or experienced or felt, you take on board. So from 0 to 6, you're not even living very consciously. You're completely a feeling. That's why kids just feel, they sense, they be. When you're 7, you start to move into what's called an alpha brain state, where you're in a transition, where you're partly daydreaming, partly mentally starting to cognitively develop. 12 onwards, you're in what's called a beta daily brain state. Now, in hypnosis they teach, but to actually change your brain programming, you have to actually get in at a theta or delta level, or at the very least an alpha. You can't change programming in beta. So if your mind is a monkey mind, like that, you can't change anything. So, but from 0 to 12, so let's just say you're 3 years of age, and you feel your mother's panic of grief because her mother's just died, and she's like, ah! And she completely goes into shock, and you take that on board completely and don't clear it and not aware of it. You might be like I did. I was walking around for years, always feeling this deep grief and sorrow and a sense of being rejected, attracting rejection, until one day I traced it back to when I was 3 and my grandma died and my mum was completely distraught about it and didn't cope. And when I cleared the attachments between me and my mum around that, from that day on, that sense left me. And I started attracting the rejection, attractions, and the sabotage relationships stopped happening for me. That's one example. But so my father was always talking about lack and how we couldn't afford this. He was a middle-class guy, but business was risky. That anyone who did business was crazy because it was too risky and you were risking your family's security. My dad would talk like that. So not surprisingly, I got a job. I was middle class. When I was even 15, I was talked out of actually a business. I was thinking about a business at 15. I was talked out of it. At 30, I had a complete nervous breakdown and health collapse and healed myself. But a lot of my healing wasn't just physical and changing my diet, which I did, and supplements got awakened in my diets, my health, and what I should be eating. But I also got awakened to my imprints, and I actually realized that I'd grown up with a family. And once I started reprogramming myself, I was able to go into business. Even then, it probably took me a number of years to get rid of the debris out of myself from my upbringing, my parents' teaching, my friends around me, what people were saying about me. So how do you know you got imprints? Well, ask yourself firstly, what's my dream for my life? What do I want to be doing? And what kind of money do I want to be earning? And if you're not there, well, you've got imprints, you've got conditioning. And especially if you're attracting investment losses or you're just finding it hard to make ends meet financially, you keep attracting tax audits or strange things of the government, or your finances, you're just really not happening. Or like one client recently came to me, his income had dropped, he'd lost his job, and he'd injured his knee. So we had to do some clearings on him already. Things are turning for him. Things are getting better, that kind of stuff. Just to give you an idea, with my sons, I've taught them this too, because one of my kids had really severe eczema 3 months ago. His whole feet swelled up. Now, he'd had it before, but I just said to him, well, because he's 14 years old, I said, well, you've created that belief system, and if you're going to walk around telling me you got eczema, you will have it. So we did a clearing on him. We closed our eyes, and I do protocols using what's called the Tribeca code and healing codes and colors and chakra clearing and commanding. Cleared out the imprints behind his eczema and everything else. Once we did that, he started getting some clarity about what was behind it. We then used Louise Hay's book to do some study about the illness and what's behind it. And then we discovered, but he actually was very unhappy with his he felt lost in his homeschooling. He felt like he wasn't on track. He wasn't doing things he was enjoying, and he was feeling unhappy with his sport. So we got all that fixed up for him. We got him linked up with a youth group to meet some friends, because he wasn't going to church, and I don't go to church myself. But we got him into a youth group to meet some friends. We got him involved more on a structured homeschooling program with his brother. Within a month, his eczema's gone. So, and we did the same. And so, yeah, so you got imprints. Well, in my case, I can remember when my income, I really wanted a high monthly income. And I remember what I really wanted to manifest was a minimum of 100K per month on average, no matter what. This was some time ago. So I did a manifestation around it where I created a manifestation. I created a clear intention. I gave thanks, and I started acting my life as if it had happened. Immediately, all kinds of stuff came up for me, like blockages and issues and things around my family I had to clear. Integrity issues are things that I had not dealt with in my life, which I'd forgotten about, came up to deal with, because you can't move forward until you clear the residue of the past. So I had to make some things right with a few people. I had to sort out a debt issue, which I had been ignoring. And then I met this mentor who started telling me, I met this new mentor out of the blue who started showing me ways I could run webinars and run ways to get my message out more, and a model which he'd proven could make literally 100K per month. That was actually what the webinar said. It was how to make 100K a month on webinars. So I got the model, I did lots of webinars, took action, and within 3 months, I was making 100K a month. So the manifestation process is a mixture of energy clearing, of imprint clearing, and practical clearing, and that kind of stuff. So it's not, there's a bit of a process. In my Facebook group The Awakening Within, I do have a 90-minute webinar which teaches people, a free webinar. So maybe people could go to that and watch that afterwards if they want to know more about it.
Fantastic. And what's the Facebook group called?
The Awakening Within.
Okay.
So THE, Awakening Within. And then in the description and in the pin post, there's a webinar link for the 90-minute webinar, full manifestation webinar one, which trains people in basically the basics of manifestation, discusses the scientific basis, things like that.
Fantastic. And I love Louise Hay's work, and they say behind every disease or dis-ease, there is some kind of emotional trigger, and she's got a great book called Heal Your Life, and there's a whole lot of free information online for anyone who's watching this who might have some physical ailment at the moment. Check out the emotional side behind it, and just doing those manifestations and affirmations that she suggests online is really powerful. So what about for people that don't know what they really want, Warren? What do you say to them?
if you don't know what you really want, there's a great book by James Allen called As a Man Thinketh. And he says in those situations, he said, whatever it is you're doing now, do it well. And basically, and and do it excellently. And if you do well, what you've already got now, whatever you got in your hand today, then it starts opening up for you. So that's one tip I give people. But the other tip is, yeah, we find something which can be, you can start small. So number one, we can actually do clearings of people where we clear the source behind confusion, procrastination, because it's an imprint, it's an energetic thing. It could be as simple as they're an indecisive father, or they hang around people who are imprinting them with procrastination. So we clear the imprints, because once we clear that, suddenly these people, like let's say there's a particular friend who's like that, who they're picking up the imprints from, they suddenly start saying, I don't want to hang out with that person anymore. So they start, because their energy changes, and a bit like a radio station, if you change from 91.5 to 94.8, you can't hear 91.5 anymore. So the moment you change your frequency or your consciousness in something, it changes. So number one, I would say, yeah, you can definitely do some clearing on that. Number two, you can definitely take what you've got in your hand today and start doing manifestations around that. So it could be, let's say you've got a job you hate right now, like you really can't stand your job. And I had this some years ago. I was running a law firm and it was making good money, but I was miserable. I'd lost my love for it, but I felt trapped. And I can remember when I had an encounter in Sedona with the one, this was 4 years ago, another one, not quite as profound as this one, but I went to Raymond Grace's workshop and had an encounter with extraterrestrial beings, sensing them and seeing a UFO and stuff like that. I came back knowing I didn't want to do a law firm anymore. And I knew my path was a spiritual teacher, but I also knew that for now, it was still important. I kept doing my tax and business, and I actually loved doing that anyway still. So what I did was I did a manifestation around my law firm being successful, but transitioning out in the next 9 months into a new business. So you can, for example, let's say you got a job you hate, you might say, well, what's a stage I can go to? Like, let's say that you, for example, you're doing it, like in my case, at one stage, I had a job 15 years ago. I was a lawyer working for someone else. So I put, my manifestation was I would still work for someone else as a contractor, and I'd be paid on results. And I did that manifestation. And by doing that, and I worked hard in my law, I improved my skills. I was looking around and I managed to get myself a contracting role, which I'd been told by recruiters wasn't available. And I got it. It just turned up out of nowhere. So in other words, even if you don't know what you're doing right now, there's always something you can do. You know, like you can take your current job and find a way to make it better and find a way to do something different. Does that make sense?
I often say to people, what is it that you really love doing? And if money wasn't an issue, what would you love to do? Because a lot of people do 9-to-5 jobs and walking around like the Walking Dead, you know, just to make that bit of money to pay the rent, or, you know, they're in survival mode. So to actually step out of survival mode and to step into a life of abundance and a life they really want, it's going to take doing things a bit differently. It's going to take trusting that, you know, what they love to do, often people are good at what they love to do too, I find. So I think the more people step into that, do more of what they love to do and what they're in their flow doing, and outsource the rest and letting go of things that they don't like doing in their business, I think the more they will attract abundance too. So what do you say to people who are maybe solopreneurs out there, people who run their own businesses, who have trouble letting go and outsourcing to others? What do you say about that?
I could say I completely empathize with you, like totally, because I have found delegation a really challenging thing because I was brought up that way. And it's taken a lot of work for me. I mean, I now have outsourced staff. I have people doing it. But even now, I would say delegation, I'm much better at it now. And as each month goes by, I'm getting better at it. But it's still not natural for me to do it. So, but I have learned to do it. The short answer is you just got to learn to do it. And the best thing to do is that if you're a solopreneur, the truth is you're probably what I call unconsciously competent, which means you've got you're so good at what you do, you don't think about it. But if you can think about it and break the process down, you can start to get others involved in your work. So as an example, I used to do all my own sales and everything. But eventually I had a girl who was keen to work with me and who was very pushy. So I ended up bringing her on, and I really broke down my system in talking with clients and doing sales. Because what I did was, as I recorded myself with her, And then we looked at my process and we broke it down. So we broke down everything from how we started the call to what we said to them to everything. And then I trained her up in it. And now all my sales are done by this girl. As an example, same with my processes. All my processes outsourced now. I just basically broke things down and got other people to do it. So number one, I would be saying definitely do a manifestation or an intention setting and a clearing. So it could be like, let's say you're a solopreneur and you're like, no, I actually want to have a business where it's all run on automated membership sites of a team. So you might say, you know, my manifestation could be, I command that I have a manifestation business. I command that I have a membership site business in this making 15 grand a month or something better by, you know, 1st of November 2018. And the date's important because even though if the date doesn't happen, doesn't mean it's failed, because everything happens in divine right order and timing, it kind of creates a structure to get the ball moving. And I will create the manifestation, I will command it, and then I will just say, then I will use what's called the Tribeca code, which is an ancient code, which I go and I picture it in my mind. It's been proven the optical pineal induction to help clear things. So I say I clear all the blockages, you know, relevant for manifestation, and I use some ancient spiritual invocations, and then I let go. I breathe and I meditate, and I feel the clearing happening in my body. And then usually after that, I will go, oh yeah, and I'll get some clarity around it, and you get what's called a next required action. So the solo entrepreneur, as they make that manifestation. And the truth is your intention is what matters. We found that by having a structured manifestation process just helps get it more accurate more times, because they've proven in the military when they did remote viewing, which is a form of unconscious accessing, that people who had structured manifestation or unconscious processes were more successful than natural psychics. So, because natural psychics are a bit hit and miss because they're emotions and filter, whereas when you've got a structured process to access your unconscious, it works better. And so we have a structured manifestation process that you can walk people through. But in saying that, if an entrepreneur really has a clear intention that says, I am going to be doing this by this date, I will have a business, I will be freed up, then when they make that intention, an idea might come to them. Like they think, yeah, I actually need to go and do a training program on how to outsource. Or then they might go, actually, yeah. Or they might meet a person who says, actually, I've got this company who specializes in outsourcing for people like you, and they can bring on a really high quality manager for you who can work with you to help you outsource and untap your knowledge. Or they might just meet someone who's just the right fit for them. In other words, things start happening, magic starts happening.
Beautiful. And where to from here for you, Warren? You've got your finger on so many pies, and you're absolutely transforming lives, which is awesome to see. So what's the future hold for you?
The future, really, it's interesting when you say holding many pies. It's more like I'm holding one big tray with a lot of pies, is how I think of it. Right. And the awakening within is really where I see things going. I mean, that's my future, really awakening the planet and teaching on manifestation and helping people clear their imprints. I've always been fascinated with the supernatural of any kind. I really see that the planet needs healing. I see people need healing in their businesses. I can see the awakening within is going to specialize primarily in healing financial blockages and imprints, although physical healings and relationship do happen as well. But it's more focusing, niching, because I know what you said about niching, on clearing money, tax, and business imprints to help people create more wealth, create more money, because that's going to help people. Because people who've got money issues cleared, I've got more headspace cleared to awaken the planet. And if you spoke to 20 people who are passionate, say like you and I, to heal the planet, probably 15 of them, money's the big thing stopping them. So I see that the awakening within is really going to help people clear money imprints, tax imprints, financial imprints. And then as part of that awakening, we're going to be having some side streams like my tax business to help people practically reduce their tax. Because it's one thing to do a spiritual esoteric clearing, but then practical help. Eventually, I'll see us having we've also got a cryptocurrency group called Crypto Tax Renegades. So that will practically help people minimize tax on cryptos, and practically, even now, we're starting to help people find cryptos and get into the best ones, because I'm fortunate enough with my line of work and business, but I meet crypto investors all the time. So I've got a very good awareness of what's going on and what I want to do. So I see that that's where I'm to from here. The awakening within to really help people manifest, train you how to take charge of your hologram, manifest the reality that you really want, clear out your blocks. And then if you also want practical solutions, bang, bingo. We've got the tax business we can help, cryptos, even eventually my partner, Sammy, she's actually an expert in health and superfoods. Eventually I want to have a health aspect to help people practically heal themselves, cure themselves away from vaccinations and medical stuff.
Fantastic. And vaccinations, now there's a hot topic, isn't there? And fluoride, well, fluoride calcifies the pineal gland, right?
Correct.
So it's interesting, our beliefs. What are our beliefs? Where do our beliefs come from? And some common imprints around wealth, of course, is money doesn't grow on trees, or wealthy people are greedy, all that sort of thing you hear. And yet there's so many wealthy people that actually are doing so much good for the planet. And of course, we need to empower ourselves financially to be able to make the difference that we want to make out there. And it's people may know that logically, but actually getting people to shift that belief and getting to the subconscious layers and working through that is really powerful. And it can happen quickly, right?
Yep, absolutely.
It can happen very quickly, as you've shown people. So we do need to wrap up fairly soon. Are there any final comments you want to make? Any more words of wisdom you'd like to leave with our viewers?
Look, probably the main thing is just to realize that your life is a movie, literally. That's probably the biggest thing, that you're creating from your own movie projected. And the biggest message of wisdom I'd like to give to people is that if you don't like what's going on in the world around you, which a lot of us don't, and don't like what's going on in your world, realize you can first change your world around you. You can change your own film or video in you to create a whole new movie. And although to some degree the world being changed is dependent on a lot of people awakening, because it's a mass mind, what I call creation. So it's not just our movie individually, it's everyone's movie, which is why what we do impacts other people, and what other people do impacts us. By us awakening ourselves first, we can then awaken people around us. Like already my experience is awakening my partner. It's awakened my ex-wife, who really didn't know what she was doing. She's getting some purpose back. Awakening my family, awakening her family, awakening my clients. I mean, there's probably been numerous clients awaken. So don't ever underestimate that when you awaken and change your paradigm and start to change your movie, you start to change others who are in your movie, because other characters get affected. So your partner, who's part of that movie, because they're all in the same movie as you, because they're all playing parts in it, they get affected. They have to, because their energy is connected to you. Your kids get affected. People around you get affected. So I would say, if you don't know, or you really want to, take charge of your own manifestation and learn how to do it and clear yourself, do whatever it takes to find it, whether you're going to a church or you're doing it yourself, that's great. If you want to find more how we do it, and we'd love to, we do our free webinar on that one, because I believe in serving people, and I give a lot of free stuff away, because a bit like you, Aldwyn, a lot of more and more giving back to humanity. And then if people want more specific help and structured courses and programs, they have various options with us, in the future, where we have structured ones. We have even personalized stuff with people everywhere. I've got a few clients actually do personalized spiritual clearing, mentoring, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but for starters, go to the Awakening Within Facebook group, and you can actually watch our 90-minute webinar, and then, talk to us more.
Fantastic, Warren. Well, you certainly are a rare breed of human being, and you really are a breath of fresh air when it comes to, anything around law, accounting, tax, crypto, spiritual healing. You really are so wise in this area, and expanding all the time, I can see, which is absolutely brilliant. So thank you for what you do for people and how you're helping to change lives. It really is very inspiring.
My pleasure. Thank you, Aldwyn. I appreciate the time.
Thank you so much for being with us, Warren. And we could really keep on chatting. I want to thank everyone who's watching this right now. Thank you to all our live viewers. And if you're watching the replay, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have any questions about what you've heard today, or any comments, if you want to add to any part of the discussion today, just pop it under where you're watching this video right now. Make sure you subscribe to the Aldwyn Altuney YouTube channel, and share the love. If you like what you've seen, share the love, and let that ripple effect grow and affect more people around you. And I think a lot of people don't realize how powerful they really are. And as David Icke says, just realize that you are infinite consciousness, and anything is possible for you. So notice when, people around you or society, etc., want to keep you small, notice that you don't have to stay small, you don't have to be small, and you can actually break through that glass ceiling, particularly in Australia, break through the glass ceiling, and you can actually have whatever you want, manifest the life you want. And part of that is having that awareness and realizing what your money and tax imprints are, and how to manifest what you really want is what we've been talking about today. So make sure you connect with Warren again on The Awakening Within on Facebook, and also Crypto Tax Renegades on Facebook as well. Make sure you connect, watch the 90-minute webinar. Any final comments, Warren, before we go?
No, just thank you everyone for being on, listening to me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I really hope that what I've had to say can awaken some people and get people, you know, aware as to moving to the next level of growth in their life.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Warren. Thanks again for watching. And here's to you stepping out and living the life that you really want, and then impacting others to do the same. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll be back again soon with more to awaken humanity out there. Thanks very much. Bye for now.